Welcome to my new video setup. In this video, I'm going to talk about job hoppers. And I know on YouTube, there are a ton of people telling you to job hop every year for a higher salary, but things are going to be different in 2022, 23, and 24. So in this video, I'm going to tell you how to figure out your next step in your career if you are a former job hopper, a current job hopper, or someone looking to hop. I hope you appreciate in the background, I have my cat as a display. I hope she stays for you. Clearly not, but so let's talk about job hopping. Why did it become a thing in the tech industry? Well, of course, this industry has suffered from a tech talent shortage for a long time. Since the 80s until the early 2000s, there were not enough developers needed for the speed of growth in the tech industry. As startups became more and more popular across North America and the world in general, you saw a lot more companies that got millions of dollars in funding, and then suddenly a year later were out of business. So it became something that people started to understand when they saw on these resumes startups that they had worked for a year or maybe just 5 months. Well, maybe the startup folded, or maybe the startup just made a bad hire. That is another aspect that has led job hopping to become more normalized, is that there is understanding these startups aren't super qualified to hire people when they only have a year or so in business. They're hiring one person, usually a director of operations that is handling hiring. Maybe they have a tech recruiter, but that's probably an underexperienced tech recruiter. Sometimes it will be a director of tech recruiting that isn't too helpful either. But these are very small companies that are not super qualified for hiring people, and anyone that has worked at a startup might have experience with that. Maybe they were hired to a job where the expectations were not realistic, or the job was not properly described. That is another aspect that makes job hopping more acceptable, is that sometimes people in startups are hired for a job, the direction of the product or service changes due to investment and the wants of the board or staff. I'm going to let my cat outside for a second. Yes, go. Yes, I have an outdoor cat. Don't call animal abuse on me. She grew up outside, so let me be. But the other aspect of making job hopping more acceptable is the job didn't turn out how you had expected. And that is super common when you're brought in for a specific skill set that you have or experience, and suddenly the job did not pan out. And another reason that job hopping has become more common, well, there's not a ton of companies that structure in pay increases per year. A lot of companies will hire you at a base salary and keep you there until you're promoted to a more senior position. Sometimes a new manager comes into the team and your supposed senior position that you could have taken, well, now that's taken by the manager. So there's no room for growth in sight. The only way that you can get a salary increase or a job title change would be from hopping jobs. And trust me, as a tech recruiter, I feel conditioned to put up with job hopping. I myself have sent resumes to hiring managers that had successive jobs for only a few months, like 6 months each. I am guilty of trying to get a hiring manager to interview those people. I've been made accustomed to it because I've seen big name companies hire people with really short tenures on their resume and still get offered over $200,000. Well, I do think things are going to change a little bit, and I might be the only person on YouTube telling you this. Don't listen to everyone else that's telling you to go hop your job for a higher salary. That might have been good advice in 2020, 2019, maybe even 2021, but now we are at the end of 2022. This is October when I'm recording this, and I don't think that job hopping is going to have the same amount of acceptance in the future going into next year and even 2024. So heed my warning if you want to. You don't have to believe me, but you can check out my other videos on this channel to see if I have been right in the past. Now, how do recruiters respond in the new environment where job hopping just isn't as acceptable? Well, let's look at why it won't be acceptable. Number one, most people hiring know that someone that hops jobs is looking for a higher salary. I always suspect that when I see people who have consecutive short tenures, that they're just hopping around for a higher salary. Now, I will say sometimes you don't get a higher salary at your job because you are not overperforming. You are not a house or car that just gets more expensive with the amount of time they've had in the industry. You do have to prove that you are a useful asset onto the team. And a lot of people that have job searched in the past 3 to 5 years are used to this idea that they're like a car that gets more and more expensive with the more and more amount of years they have in their career. But I don't think that mentality is going to withstand a recession. If people are going to act like cars back then they should act like cars now. And in the future, cars that are going to still be expensive are going to be cars that run well and are worth the price. So engineers that consistently have shown growth in their career from one job, that can be through a title change or through salary increase. Yes, you can talk about that in an interview. If you worked at a job for 3 years and your salary went up, well, feel free to mention that. That's the company telling you that you're doing well without giving you that title increase. And that's just one nugget in the memory of the hiring manager or recruiter that you are a good candidate. Another reason that a lot of people job hop is because they're difficult to work with. And that is really common in the tech industry when you have a lot of people who want to prove their value by proving their intelligence or knowledge. You're going to have some personalities that bump around, and there are people out there who have successive short tenures on their resume because they are personality problem people. And when your company is reducing its profit lines or maybe even slimming down the staff, you can't afford to keep around personality problem people. So they are let go from the team, and they don't typically get hired easily because other companies are suspecting that. You can find out who the personality problem people are through the interview process and asking specific questions to get that out. But just when I'm looking through resumes, and especially now, I've definitely noticed an increase in the number of resumes. I'm getting actual applications from decent engineers. I will have, once I get to a certain level of resumes coming in, well, then my standards are just going to go up. And I will cut your resume potentially for a small reason like successive short job tenures. Now, if you are looking to change your job, maybe you've only been there for a year, I would not suggest to do that unless you have to. A lot of people are having to change jobs right now because their contracts are coming to an end. Yeah, there's a lot of people in the tech industry who work on contracts, and of course they want full-time now that companies are cutting contracts. That's the first type of employment to cut during a recession or economic downturn. Sorry for the motorcycle in the background. If you can hear it, I don't know in this video, but the contractors are the first to be cut because they're paid more than full-time employees. If you're on contract, you get paid more because it's risky and you're the first cut when there's a downturn in profit. So there you go. Lots of contract people looking for jobs right now, and contract people tend to have short tenures. Now, let's define what a short tenure is. I would say if you have 3 jobs in 3 years, I would call you a job hopper. Now, you might not be an extreme one. Maybe that is someone I could consider in certain circumstances, but even 1.3 or 1 year and 3 months, 1.4, I see those a lot on people's resumes, and it just looks like the magic of resumes and months that you tend to work at a job a little bit longer than you had, but it just looks like you were on there for a specific project, a contract, they didn't want to bring you on site. Of course, anyone that is at successive jobs for short amount of time, that's like 6 months, that is the criminal job hopper that is going to struggle in the upcoming recession. But also, I do consider if someone had job hopped in the past and they stayed at a job for like 3 years, okay, I can have forgiveness for that job hopping. But if they went from a job for 3 years and then they were at a job for 3 or 5 years and then they hopped 3 different companies in a row, well, there is a little bit of concern, and maybe their past company kind of put up with them, and these other companies don't have time for those kind of problems. Not to be mean, but that is how recruiters do view job hopping. Now, I pulled up on my magical resume search. I don't want to snitch on the company I'm using, of course, but I just put into the search filters people who are looking for a job in the United States who have been at their job for less than a year. Now, I didn't filter this at all by job title, but let me read to you the top few titles that show up in the job search. This should give you an idea of the people who are job hopping and the type of job hoppers that are now going to be on the job search. Starting off with a desktop support specialist, software engineer, a technical recruiter, information technology project coordinator, a software engineer, a DevOps engineer, a program manager, a sales exec, a technical trainer, a sales exec. Now we're going into healthcare business development representative, a lead Android engineer, a development sales representative, a technical recruiter, more sales, technical recruiter, sales, software engineer, technical support, technical recruiter. So, of course, you're going to see salespeople looking for a job and having short tenures in any industry. But you heard a lot of those software or technical support people. So I'm going to go into the actual job title and type developer, loper, and software. So this is just in the United States with the job title developer or software. We have a senior data engineer who's at Cognizant experience. Very common theme I see. People who work at Cognizant for a year, jump to another job for a year, then jump to another job for a year. I understand sometimes this job hopping happens because of work authorization issues. For example, some people that might come to the U.S. will come through a master's program on OPT. Well, some of these larger companies like Cognizant will offer to sponsor them into an H-1B after a year if they work for clients. So they hop around to these clients from year to year. Don't quote me on this. Go figure it out. I'm telling you the rumors. I'm not these candidates, so I don't know the ins and outs, but that's sure what it looks like from here. That these companies really target people who don't have a green card or citizenship in the U.S., and they get them into these work arrangements because, well, it's really hard to get companies to hire you if you are on a visa, especially in a recession, because it's simply more risk. Not a lot of people get H-1Bs, not a lot of people get green cards. So essentially you have to find a company that's willing to only work with you for a year. And well, guess what? Companies decide to make these special work arrangements that are only for a year for people who don't have permanent residency in the U.S. I would say a recession is not a good time to come to the U.S. and try to get a job unless you have a green card or citizenship, some way to stay here for a long period of time, because there's a ton of people on the job search right now that have these really typical profiles. But scrolling down the list, I see a lot of back-end and data engineers. .NET engineers are definitely looking for jobs. I'm seeing lots of that. But these people who have short tenures are coming from Cognizant, US Bank, Wells Fargo, Infosys, IBM, random startup, place I've never heard of, EPAM Systems. I see them a lot for job hoppers, I'll admit. Any banks? I see lots of banks. Now, I'm looking at this one guy. I immediately called him a job hopper, but when I click on his profile, I see he had 3 years and 5 months of experience before his 6-month job he's trying to jump out of. Okay. And the job before that, he was there for like a year. So maybe I would consider this person. They did 3.5 years solid at one company. So they can stick somewhere, and maybe they got unlucky. I wouldn't call this person a job hopper, even though they are trying to hop out of their job now. That's the mentality that recruiters have when they're looking at people's information. I will sometimes automatically cut out some candidates from my searches, like Amazon engineers. They're just so expensive. I don't want to bother. But I do see a theme in the companies that people who job hop come from like Wipro Limited. I see lots of job hoppers coming from there. Please stop putting on your experience if you did a boot camp, like if you did Hack for LA and you did a small project and you're maybe getting paid like a teacher assistant salary, but you're not really working in the industry. Maybe this as like an internship, or as I guess it's technically not charity work, but it's like really deceiving as a recruiter. I'm always rolling my eyes when I see someone calling themselves a software developer at a boot camp. Like, I know that you're just learning. Who tells you to do that? I don't know, but it's really annoying. And I'm kind of trying to look past that when I see it and when I'm looking at candidates. But looking through this, I'm seeing generic software developer. I am seeing a lot of mobile developers, Android mostly. iOS does have some job security in the US because America prioritizes iPhone app development. That's just because iPhone is more popular in America. So iOS developers do have some job security, but generally speaking, those mobile engineers focusing specifically on the app kind of have short tenures. So if you are an iOS developer looking for a new job, not sure if you should job hop, I would suggest that you do not job hop out of your job right now. Credit Suzy is a company I see a lot that job hoppers come from. And I can automatically filter with a lot of these resume search websites. I'm being real vague there to see how long you were at a certain job. And it is going to be a typical person. Let's take this up a notch. I have it just in the United States. Obviously, let's pick a expensive place, California. So people looking for work that have a software developer job in California with less than a year at their current job. Java developers, Intel Corp, Infosys, VMware, letting go of database designers. That's a big deal coming from VMware. This person did have a short tenure though. MuleSoft developers are definitely looking for jobs lately. And test engineers, which makes sense. QA and test engineers would be easy to let go if the business isn't as active as before. Well, you need a lot less tested. It is harder to get rid of developers that are building the backend infrastructure because they are like construction people, whereas test engineers are kind of like maintenance, right? Maintenance can come in and out. I'm not seeing a specific job title that's coming up when I search these. It's mostly just the generic software engineer, software developer, but a lot of these older companies like Cisco, Intel, I'm seeing have let go of people. But this is just the beginning. I think as we usually go into holidays, hiring slows down for many reasons. The budget is coming to a close and everyone's taking PTO, so people just aren't active in the office. It is normal to see a slowdown in hiring at these times, but as per my candidates that I talk to every day when I'm interviewing, they say that hiring has gotten really slow lately. Unexpectedly, they're having a hard time getting interviews. I am warning you now, this is October 2022, that interviewing is slowing down for people who have pretty good resumes. I wouldn't say that they're coming from Google or Amazon, but they're definitely strong resumes that would have gotten more attention even earlier this year, if not years ago. So hiring definitely is changing. The attitude towards job hopping is going to change. If you are a job hopper, it is time to reform. If you are thinking about jumping out of your job, please don't do it. If you have already done it and you're looking for a job, well, I hope that you are praying at night for help from the resume gods so that you can more easily find a job. It might not have been a good idea to jump out of the last one. And if you are struggling to get interviews with your job hoppy resume, be sure to subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to give you the feedback on how recruiters see your resume. You can better customize it to be to your advantage. You can list some of these job hops that you do under a freelance section. So it looks like you legitimately were doing contract work for these short, small projects, but it would be helpful if you had something that you could stand behind it. Like if you had a 3-year job before your tech career, maybe put that on your resume just so that it shows you could stick with a job, and maybe the tech industry is the flaky one, not you. If you want feedback on your resume specifically, just shout out in the comments and I will send you a message and we can go over that together. Maybe I'll make a video if you let me. I'm sorry that my cat left the rest of this video so you didn't get to see her, but I hope you like this new layout. I'm using a webcam instead of an iPhone to record this, so it's a different angle, but it'll be the same look from now on. I'm about to record another video, so sorry that I've been gone for so long. I'm excited that my predictions are coming true and the tech startup bubble is bursting. So thanks for checking out this video and subscribing to my channel. I'll see you in the next one.